So today we're gonna bust that ridiculous 2024 Tacoma turbo myth. You know, the thought that you've got to do something special about the turbo or with the turbo, the turbocharger in the 2024 Tacoma. But before we get to that, it's a couple of other things I wanted to update you guys on. First of all, the day that I drove this truck home, I got a rock chip in the windshield. I was on the freeway and bam, a rock hit my windshield and gave me a chip. So immediately I ran to Walmart and picked up some of that stuff you use to fix it with and fixed it myself. Now, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I think you can, right there. Not down here. I don't know what that is. Let me get a little closer if I can. Right here is the chip, right there. You see that? That is the fixed chip. Now, looking at the rest of the windshield, it's hard to differentiate it from anything else. That's from a camera, my camera, but it's hard to differentiate it from anything else. So I think it came out pretty well. I don't think it's gonna web out or do anything crazy, but what a drag on a brand new truck to get a chip in the windshield on the way home. Next up, I wanted to run through the break-in period. If you didn't know, there is a suggested break-in period and procedure for the new 2024 Tacoma. So I'm gonna whip out the manual and run through that with you real quick. Then we're gonna get to that crazy myth about the turbocharger. All right, let's get to the break-in period on the new Tacoma, and I'm going straight from the manual. This is on page 187 if you want to read it yourself, but you don't have to. Just watch the rest of this video. So it says here, breaking in your new Toyota. To extend the life of the vehicle, observing the following precautions is recommended. For the first 200 miles or 300 kilometers for you folks in the metric world, avoid sudden stops. So don't jam on the brakes. Next up, for the first 500 miles or 800 kilometers, let's see, it says here, do not tow a trailer. So for the first 500 miles, you cannot tow a trailer, you're not supposed to, in your new Tacoma. For the first 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers, do not drive at extremely high speeds. So if you bought your Toyota Tacoma to track it, to take it to the track and drag race other vehicles, or maybe go round and round and round, don't do that. For the first 1,000 miles, avoid sudden acceleration. So as much as you want to, because it does have a lot of power, stay off the accelerator for the first 1,000 miles. I have to remember that myself. I actually shot a video in the truck today and it crossed my mind to go ahead and jump on the gas just to see what it felt like for the video, but I refrained. Do not drive continuously in low gears. So keep the speed up. And I think the key to breaking in any new vehicle is moderation, right? You want to vary your speeds. You don't want to go too fast, you don't want to go too slow, and you don't want to do anything for an extended period of time. You want to vary everything. Do not, and that's the next point here, do not drive at a constant speed for extended periods. Kind of hard to do if you're bringing it home on the freeway like I did. I mean, I left the dealership and I had to drive for about an hour or so on the freeway, maybe 40 minutes on the freeway. And if I'm driving at speed, that means I'm constantly driving at 65 or 75, whatever miles per hour for what I would consider to be an extended period of time. I kind of wish Toyota would define what extended period means. Is that 5 minutes? Is that 5 hours? What does that really mean? For me, an hour, I would call that an extended period of time at any given speed. And let's see, that's it. So there is nothing else about breaking it in, just those few things. Again, I think if you stick to moderation, you're probably gonna have a long life out of your Toyota Tacoma. Now, let's get to this turbo question. You know, the biggest, one of the biggest things I've heard about the turbocharger, or the fear of having one, well, there's two things. One, that it's not going to last, but more so even is that you have to let it warm up or let it cool down when you're driving. So in essence, when you get home, you need to pull in your garage and sit in it for a while and let it run so that the turbo is able to cool. That is not true, except in one situation, I guess. So let's go to the manual. This is important enough that Toyota covered it themselves. It's on the same page, 187, if you want to read it. It says, idling time before engine stop. To prevent damage to the turbocharger, allow the engine to idle immediately after high-speed driving or hill climbing. So there's really two instances, I guess. You know, if you're out running the truck at high speeds, or if you're climbing up and down mountains, you're going to want to let it cool down a little bit. They give a little table, a chart here as to what situation applies and when you really need to let the truck cool down. Says here, driving condition, normal city driving. So that would be speeds, let's say 35, 45 mile an hour and lower. Idling time, not necessary. So if you're driving in the city, maybe you went to the Walmarts or Lowe's or the grocery store or whatever, you don't need to come home and let the truck sit and idle to cool down. The next situation, and that's, let's see, high-speed driving, constant speed of approximately 50 miles per hour. I don't know that I'd call that really high-speed driving, but it says here, not necessary. So if you're doing 50 mile an hour for extended periods of time, or constant speeds rather, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to let it sit and idle. Now, here's where we get into the one or two situations where you do. Steep hill driving. So if you're going up hills that take a lot of engine power, or continuously driving at 62 miles per hour, or more. And then it says in quotes here, racetrack driving. Racetrack driving? Toyota is actually covering racetrack driving for the Tacoma in their manual. Anyway, steep hill driving or continuous driving at 62 miles per hour or more, racetrack driving, approximately 1 minute. So if you're out tracking the new Tacoma, going around and around or drag racing, you need to let it sit and run at idle for a minute to let that turbocharger cool down. That's really all there is. There's nothing more. So this big fear that all of a sudden you're going to have to alter the way that you drive, spend a lot of time sitting in the truck and letting it idle to cool down is simply not true, except for those two circumstances, I guess. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know. Did that bust the turbo myth for you for the 2024? Or is that still too much to ask? I'd just be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.